Switch to mine. Hey guys, welcome. We still have a few minutes, but this is just a sign-up sheet. I'll send out, the PowerPoint is already loaded in Sketch, but I have a Padlet with some resources I'll be sharing today, so I'll just send everything out by email so you have everything in one clean place. So it's up to you, but if you would like that, just name, email, and school information. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to those of you via Zoom. Thank you so much for being here this morning. It's great to be back in person, and I know there were so many good sessions going on right now, a lot that I also wanted to go to, so thank you for joining, and I hope that you find this time really beneficial and can walk away with some ready-to-use resources for you or for the teachers that you work with in your school and your division. So my name is Lindsay Corner, and I am the manager of eMediaVA, which is a free digital media content library for Virginia teachers and students. And before I took the job at WHRO, I worked for a time in museum education at Jamestown Settlement, and then was a social studies teacher for a number of years in Newport News Public Schools. So I always like to start by introducing WHRO. So eMediaVA, I work for WHRO Public Media, which is the NPR PBS affiliate for Eastern Virginia. Do we have anyone who lives in that region? Okay, so we are really unique in that we are the only public media station in the country that's owned by a conglomerate of school divisions. So the 21 school divisions of Eastern Virginia literally own our station. We report to superintendents. We have tons of meetings with educators and tech specialists like yourself to really govern the work that we do. So what that means is we have more educational offerings than your average PBS member station, one of which is eMediaVA. So again, I work for WHRO, but we receive funding from the Virginia Department of Ed to operate eMediaVA statewide. So it is a free resource for the entire state, public, private, and home educators. So big concepts for today. What are we going to do with our time together? We are going to explore and analyze different examples of digital media from eMediaVA. So if you're not familiar, looking at some really cool things that we have in our content library. As we go along, we'll create a playlist of the resources that we look at. When I was a teacher, the playlist feature in eMediaVA was one of my favorites. It was great to save things from year to year, but you can also use playlists and collections to create self-paced learning assignments for students that you can assign in your learning management system. And we're also going to discuss strategies to use digital media, the best ways to use digital media to really engage students and to help them retain content. So I wanted to start, we're going to work backwards. We're going to jump into some digital media strategies first. So I did want to provide a brief introduction to eMediaVA in case you're not familiar. So again, eMediaVA is a free digital media content library in Virginia, and it's great for pretty much whatever learning environment that your school or division uses or might find yourself in. So great for hybrid, virtual, or traditional learning formats. It's also great for students to use independently. We're hearing from more and more teachers that they are using eMediaVA as an independent research tool with their students. So if you have students who are creating their own media project and they need access to images and videos, and you're tired of saying, guys, let's not Google image search the first thing we find, eMediaVA is a really great resource for students to have as well, because they can use everything in our content library. They have full permissions to do so. So it's really encouraging to hear that more schools are introducing it to students to use. And then finally, it's a great resource to share with parents and guardians. So if teachers and students and parents are looking for additional resources and saying, my student is struggling with fractions, we have created hundreds of collections on a variety of topics that teachers can post in their learning management system. They can create their own. They're great for SLR review, post, and then forget about it. So we've done a lot of that work for you. We have over 10,000 resources in our library. So a lot of great video, interactives, audio, things being like podcasts, links, and we cover pre-K through 12th grade, all contents and grade levels. Over 120,000 users around the state. Since the pandemic started, our usage has kind of just blown up. So it's been really great to be a resource for Virginia teachers right now. And we have over 500 content providers that kind of round out eMediaVA. So of course, because we're NPR PBS, a good majority of our content does come from PBS member stations around the country. But then we also work with state, local, and national partners to round out our library. So Science Museum of Virginia, American Civil War Museum, other places around the state. Our goal is to be a one-stop shop for digital media in Virginia. So instead of teachers going to a variety of sites, hopefully they can come to us and find exactly what they need. And then the final thing before we jump into talking about digital media as a great tool is if you're new to eMediaVA, chances are you and teachers in your division already have an account. So if you are a Clever division, we are likely already connected via Clever. So that would work for teachers and students. Some divisions, Suffolk, Portsmouth, use their, Loudoun County, you use LCPS Go. So we do work with some divisions that just basically use your computer sign-on to get to eMediaVA. And then usually for smaller divisions, either we or someone in the division manually creates accounts. So with that sign-up sheet, I'll check and make sure everybody has accounts. Most do at this point just because of the rapid growth of single sign-ons. Okay, so let's dive in and talk about digital media as a tool. So I would like you guys to go to slido.com. You can go on your phones or on your computer. Y'all on Zoom, this is more beneficial for you, but you can scan that QR code and it will take you right to it. And then enter 427245. So my question for you, in a word or two, what impact has using digital media had on your classroom or the teachers that you work with? So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to log in. In a word or two, what impact has using digital media had on your classroom or on the classrooms of the teachers that you work with? Or good. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion. That's really interesting. Beneficial, it can be stressful, overwhelming, broadening horizons. Wow, overwhelming. It's big. Okay, I love this. It's interesting, different groups that I present with, how their answers change depending on what your role is with the division. So this is really interesting. Okay, so overwhelmingly, teachers are overwhelmed by digital media. It is forever changing, which is true. That can kind of lead to that overwhelming feeling. There's just so many choices. It can be really beneficial. It makes learning more interactive. I love that. It leads to higher engagement. We'll talk about that, but studies show that that is absolutely the case. Open doors, higher engagement. It's stressful, making text interactive. I like that. Okay, thank you. And you can leave that open. We have a few more questions that we'll go through. I always like to ask that question to lead into this slide. So a big part of my job working at a public media station is we are kind of really big into digital media and the right ways to use it, the right ways to create it. So I do a lot of research and presentations on using digital media as a teaching tool. And then when I was a teacher, like I said, I taught social studies. So there's obviously just an overwhelming amount of really great digital media to use in the social studies classroom that I use on a daily basis. So I created this just to show 4 of the really big important things about using digital media to benefit. So it supports differentiation and personalized learning. So it's great that we can take different resources, assign them to students based on where they are, working in learning groups or individually. We saw this on our Slido answers, increase student engagement and motivation. So our students, we know, are digital learners. They're digital beings. If we're not using digital media in the classroom, if teachers aren't using digital media, it makes it really hard for students to feel like our content is relevant and connect with them, because this is how they learn. This is what they do, even if they don't know it. Every time they post on social, they are creating media. They are creators of digital media all the time. Practicing critical thinking. So digital media is a great way to get students talking and thinking in a way they might not even think of as being work, but having them create their own questions about media, answering your questions about media, and of course, creating their own digital media. And then finally, increased understanding and retention. If we remember way back to, when we were in education programs, we learned a lot about working memory and long-term memory. And studies upon studies show that digital media is a really great way to help students take something from working memory and transition it into their long-term memory, which is what we as educators want. Sometimes we maybe only want them to remember things to get to the end of the year, but some things we want them to be lifelong learners of what we're teaching them to become good digital citizens and just citizens in general. And again, digital media is such a great way to do that. I'm sure we all have examples in our own lives. I always talk about, I taught world history, and I would always show my students a really cool video on Justinian the Great. He was a Byzantine emperor, and he was really unique in that he married a courtesan who was a sex worker at the time, and they were really in love. And so whenever we were reviewing, it's like, all right, guys, what are the 3 things you have to remember about Justinian? And they always said, he married a sex worker. And you're like, I'm really glad that stuck with you, but that's not what you need to remember. They're not going to ask you that on the SOL. But it was just, at the end of the year, 9 months later, my students remembered that because it was a really great digital media tool that I found to use. So to start with, I want to talk about 5 tips for engaging students with digital media based on science. So obviously digital media and video are really popular and great tools to use in the classroom for students and teachers. And I'm sure we have all seen this usage skyrocket since the pandemic. They're great for traditional classrooms, flipped, full-time virtual, blended. Digital media has just rapidly grown in popularity. But of course, there are better ways to use them and the right ways to use them to make them really effective. Again, I'm sure we've all used things that just didn't work or have been in classrooms and seeing how digital media isn't used really effectively. So I'm going to share 5 of my favorite tips for engaging students. I've created an infographic on these that I've linked in the slide deck, so it could be really great and easy for you to share with teachers at your staff too, if you would like, or if you're thinking about doing a training specifically on this as well. That's up for grabs for you. So first, of course, is keep it short. So studies show, especially for high school level learners, the max that a video should be, an educational video, is about 6 minutes long. So when we're talking elementary students, I'm sorry, do we have folks who work with both elementary and secondary? Okay, just want to make sure we're looking at examples today that include everybody. So when we talk about elementary, it's probably even shorter than that. We're talking maybe about 3 minutes for our elementary students. So we definitely want to encourage students and teachers to use media that is shorter. Of course, they can use longer media and cut it. And of course, it really depends on the type of media. We're going to look at an example in a few minutes of my all-time favorite video series to use with students. The video I'm going to show you is 6 minutes, 20 seconds, which I totally think works for this rule. Other videos are about 10 to 12 minutes for high school. That's outside of this rule, but the content is super engaging. Obviously, students can sit through a 30-minute TV show or a movie all the time, so teachers have to use their discretion. But generally, when we're talking about educational video, studies show that 6 minutes is the max, especially for older learners. 2 is using a conversational style. So the examples we're going to look at today do a really good job of following this principle too. We want to use media that talks like our students talk, that features folks who look like our students and connect with them that way. This is called the personalization principle. And this also would refer to how we teach, right? If we teach in a way that makes it difficult for our students to connect with us, if we're using language that they're not familiar with or comfortable with, that's kind of outside of their culture, that's going to make it harder for them to really embrace what it is we're trying to get them to use. So I'm actually in a program for instructional design right now. And it's just crazy, all the things we learned about designing really good presentations that I didn't learn in my teaching programs, and there's so much that's like, oh, as a teacher, I could really use this. So a lot of this is also the research that's been done on instructional design as well. So conversational style, always great. This one surprises me whenever I see it. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this, but studies actually show that videos where people speak really quickly tend to engage our students better. Enthusiastically, that's a given. You guys have probably heard that an audience maybe rises to 50% of your excitement level. So I was out in the classroom, like I would run down and high five my students about what we were about to learn because they were only going to be about half as excited about the content as I was. So I always tried to overplay and oversell it. What's really important about this though, is that that's where a lot of our new tools of allowing students to be in control of how they consume media are really, really important. How many of you taught or used the, the John Green series in your classrooms? Okay. So I like to use that. And like I said, I taught in Newport News, which was a pretty mixed teaching environment, and not even thinking, I would show it. And a lot of students really struggled and said, that guy talks way too fast. I have no idea what he's talking about. So it was really a way for me to step back and say, okay, if I'm using this video, it's kind of a direct instruction tool. At the time, my students weren't one-to-one. I need to take a lot of breaks. I need to stop, check for understanding, use questioning to make sure students are getting out of it when I need them to. But even better, now we have Edpuzzle Pear Deck where we can load videos and let students really be in control of how fast they're going to watch something. So that's really key to effectively using digital media. But overall, studies show that speaking quickly and enthusiastically is the best way to connect with students. You can see I've linked here for questioning. So public media, we kind of have our own favorite questioning technique, and I have linked it here. I'm sure a lot of you are experts on this, but if it's something your students really struggle, your teachers struggle with, the frame focus follow-up is great, and we're gonna practice this when we watch some videos in a minute. But of course, frame, we're providing context, we're asking an anticipatory question. And again, this is linked in the slide deck. A way to connect prior knowledge or to spark engagement and excitement about what we're gonna watch. Focus. So even when they're viewing, I was that annoying teacher, even in a 3-minute video, I stopped the video 5 times. Guys, did you hear that? That was the most important point. And it was really annoying, but it was a way that I could make sure that they were getting what I needed them to get out. And then of course, asking follow-up questions or follow-up activities to retell the story and to make sure that students are retaining. So frame focus follow-up is a great strategy if teachers are really struggling with questioning. Again, it's a favorite. You can see WNET is another public media station. We're a big fan of that. Starts back at the beginning, I apologize. Nope. Okay. 4, personalize the media materials. So what this means is that students are going to know if you've kind of picked a random video that doesn't relate to what you're teaching. So you really want to do a good job of when you're introducing a video or introducing a piece of media or even an activity, making it really clear to students why you're showing it or why you're having to do something. So again, having students draw things like that, I would always studies show that if you can draw a concept, you're going to remember it for longer. This is why we're doing this. Okay, so it's kind of the same way with media. And we want to make it really clear to students when we're picking things that we make it clear why we've chosen it, how it relates to the learning objectives, and that's going to help them remember it that much more. And then finally, match modality. So this is the modality principle, and it might be something you're already familiar with, but basically it holds that students learn better when new information is explained by audio rather than on-screen text. Okay, so this applies to digital media, but you're probably thinking, where do we see this most? It's during lecture and live instruction. So I just did a bad job of that because I literally read to you off the screen. So that would not be a good example of a modality, but we actually don't want teachers to have a lot of text on screen while they're teaching if they are also explaining the same concept. Okay, so it makes it really hard for students to learn if they're reading something and you're saying something at the same time. So using audio and then choosing media to go along with that is the best way that students are going to learn. And that's going to apply to media as well. Khan Academy, which we have in eMediaVA, is actually a really great example of this. There's somebody talking and walking through problems. You're not seeing the same words they're saying on the screen. Obviously, if we have students who need to use captions or have a disability, that's going to be a different issue. But for most of our learners, we do not want to repeat what we're saying that's on the screen. Okay, so just out of curiosity, I have another Slido question. So those are the 5 things that we've reviewed and that are really great media tips for teachers. So which engagement strategy do you think educators struggle with most? I kind of have an idea. I'm just curious with the teachers that you work with. They do not use short media. They choose not to use media or maybe even teach in a way that's not conversational. They are not using enthusiastic media, personalized media, or modality. We're just going to split it even. And that's how I thought it was going to break down, was modality would probably be the biggest issue. I know when I was a teacher, that's definitely, now having learned so much about using digital media, that's something that I really had a problem with, in media that is short. That's great that less people have an issue finding enthusiastic and relatable media. I know that can really depend too on what you're teaching. You know, maybe, I know especially in our content library, we don't have as much for math as we do for science and social studies. So sometimes it's going to be harder, depending on what you teach, to find really great media. Okay, so the next slide is another question. So what we're going to do is transition into looking at a couple of examples. We'll get one for secondary and one for elementary of some of my favorite videos in eMediaVA. So this is a great way that we're going to look at a couple of videos that adhere to the principles, but then are also just great examples of things we have in eMediaVA that you can share with teachers right away. And as we watch them, we'll start to build a playlist so I can show you how you go about doing that as well. So this question relates to the first video. So this is an example of of framing the question. Have you ever had an experience online where you felt you could say what you wanted? So students, this is something that teachers could pull students on. Of course, make it a quick write. So yes, you have. No, but I've read enough BuzzFeed listicles to know this is a problem. Okay, interesting. Have you ever had an experience online where you felt you could say what you wanted?
It might be silly, but I'm not understanding the question.
Okay, so this is more something you would ask students, but you as a person, have you ever had an experience where you felt like you could be mean without consequences online? Basically, yes. Okay, it doesn't have to be mean, but that's kind of what I think of, kind of no holds barred. It doesn't have to be mean. And this is interesting because it's usually, I don't think I've ever worked with educators before. Most say no, but what do you think it would be for students?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be totally flipped. So obviously this question only lends itself to a yes or no, but we can have students do think pair shares, a quick write, do it as a full class discussion. My mom is watching my toddler and she's FaceTiming me right now. We all want to stop and take that call. So I'm going to show you a video. Is anyone familiar with the Above the Noise series? Okay. And this is one of my favorites. It's called, Is the Internet Making You Meaner? So this is 6 minutes 20. We're only going to watch about 3 minutes of it, but then we'll discuss. So I was going to, we can see how you're feeling. I certainly don't want to force anyone, but maybe as we're watching, think about what a focus or follow-up question could be. So something we would maybe stop the video and ask questions, or maybe something we would ask following the clip I'm going to show you to make sure students really got what we wanted them to get out of it.
Do you ever catch yourself saying something online that you probably wouldn't say in real life? I'm looking at you, internet trolls. Got something bad to say to me? Come at me, bro. Come on. I'm just kidding. We don't get trolls on our videos. Y'all are all great. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, for example, my name is Miles with the Y, Bess, B-E-S-S. And I got into a little altercation with the guy because his name was Miles with an I, B-E-S-T. So I was talking trash. I just kept tweeting him like, there can only be one. I'm better than you. Get off Twitter. Now, I was the aggressor in the whole situation. I probably wouldn't have done it if I had to see him face to face, but I was online and I felt protected by the internet. I think we've all seen how online conversations can quickly take a turn for the worse. Just look at any time a woman posts anything on social media. There's always somebody commenting about how she looks or how she's doing something wrong. Just ask my friend Julia from 2 Cents, a personal finance show on YouTube.
You're so right, Miles. I had the very unique experience of
becoming pregnant, visibly so, and having the baby while I had a YouTube channel and while I was talking about like important things about money and trying to teach. So many of the comments were focused on my ever-changing body.
It kind of feels like it's super easy to be mean to each other online. So today we're asking, is the internet making us mean? So it's a real thing. The internet really can make people act differently online than they do face-to-face. Researchers call this the online disinhibition effect. You know that little inner voice in the back of your head that tells you something might be a bad idea? Well, the internet can kind of shut that voice up. You might end up saying or doing something mean that you'll regret later, or sharing something that's a little TMI. But online, this disinhibition effect isn't always a bad thing. Plot twist. Sometimes, good things can come from the disinhibition effect, like when someone might open up about something private online and get some much needed support. Let me break it down for you. Back in 2004, psychologist John Suler published a paper outlining this phenomenon. And this paper is kind of a big deal. It's been cited over 3,000 times. That means it's shown up in a bunch of other research. In the paper, there's two types of disinhibition. Toxic disinhibition, where you have a tendency to act meaner than you would in real life, making the internet a hostile place. But there's also benign disinhibition, where people can open up and share more than they normally would, which can create a positive online experience. So why do we act differently online? Well, if you think about it, there's a lot about chatting online that's pretty different than talking in person. And it's these differences that can lead us to do things online that we normally wouldn't do. In the
I'll stop there.
paper, there's about 6 main things about online communication that lower disinhibition. But for this video, we'll focus on the big 3. 1, anonymity. 2, lag time. And 3, lack of nonverbal cues. Okay, first, let's discuss anonymity.
This is where I usually stop it. But I love this video. So before we talk about, I want to jump back and maybe show you around a little bit around eMediaVA on this page. But does anyone have any ideas about questions that came to mind that you would use or encourage a teacher to use?
Well, I'm an English teacher, so I probably would have stopped when they introduced the word disinhibition to discuss what that means, and maybe come up with some personal examples of that usage in the internet, so that they have a better understanding before you get into the actual word usage in the video.
That's a great idea. Anyone else?
I would have stopped and asked about what we meant by protected by the internet.
That's a good question too.
I would have stopped and just had a little conversation on why do my class think we act for real fun, just to see.
Yeah. And that could have maybe been, a frame question, something we asked going into it instead of the one that I did. There's a lot of different options there. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. I always really like to push this video at the beginning of the year, especially if we have students who are doing a lot of work online and in person. It's a great way to remind them about and kind of lead into a discussion of how we interact with each other online and in our classroom. And this series is just great. I think too, it could be a great one to share with teachers, especially now towards the end of the year, where maybe there's a lot of downtime, where teachers are looking maybe for some educational things that are fun, that are great to use, but maybe not related to content.
I'm also thinking too, this should also fit into an SEL curriculum as well. Our division has SEL time every day for our students, and this could actually be a topic that
Absolutely.
teachers could use as well.
You're absolutely right. We've been doing as a station, our local superintendents have been very focused on SEL. So we've done a number of trainings on that. And there's so much for early learners in elementary. And it gets a lot harder when they get older. And this is one of the series that we promote to get students talking without them really realizing that they're talking about their feelings. So I can show you, again, this is linked for you in the Padlet I'm going to share, but Me Too activism in high schools. Can you change someone's mind on social? Why is each generation getting lonelier? As studies show that Gen Z is actually the loneliest generation on record. So that could be really interesting to get them talking. And you can see not all of these are related. They're also great for digital media and media literacy. Like I always show this when I'm talking to media specialists and librarians. When is it right to rename the schools? That's obviously an issue we see here in Virginia a lot. Should trans girls be allowed to play girls sports? And some of these might seem like controversial issues, but I love this series because it really finds a way to take the controversy out of it. For this video, again, I don't know if you all noticed, but they talked about citations. He talked about how many times John Sewler's work had been cited. So that's really reinforcing for our students the importance of using good resources and how not all research is created equal. So again, we're always looking at those media literacy resources. And they also have some really great science videos too. So this is great media literacy that can be used across contents. Really, no matter what you teach, I think you can find something great in here. So just while we're on here, just take a quick break. If you're new to eMediaVA, here you have some options. So always check under supplemental resources. So that question, we got it from the student viewing guide. Almost everything in eMediaVA has supplemental resources that's going to make that this is general, that one that has questions for all the videos. It's one guide for all of Above the Noise. Okay. Sorry, it's gonna be the last one. Classroom viewing guide. So the question that I asked was actually available for teachers to use. And then it also has here some of the questions that we talked about, where it's going to give teachers prompts to stop this, obviously to stop the video and discuss the class. If you're using Edpuzzle, Pear Deck, how easy is this for teachers to use right away? So in eMediaVA, we have a lot of resources that make it really easy for teachers to integrate what they're doing. And then it usually, again, because it's a media literacy and digital citizenship series, they're always going to have students evaluate evidence. So obviously this could be a 10-minute discussion with students. It could maybe be a full class period in a 45-minute class. So it's really up to the teacher, but there are additional materials here. So since we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and add to playlist. You can't miss this button. I'm just gonna call it the Steve, just to show you how you can also save resources in eMedia. Okay, great. Here, most of our videos are available for download. I know when I taught by 7th grade, there was no internet, so I always like to make sure that my videos were downloadable, so I didn't have to worry about it. Some of you might be aware that we actually have a Canvas integration for many schools. Not all school divisions have signed up for this, but teachers can search and embed eMediaVA within Canvas without having to come to eMediaVA. It will play from within Canvas, but what's great is it automatically authenticates students and teachers coming through Canvas, then you wouldn't have to worry about accounts for them either.
How do you know if your district has
that? I have a list. We can talk. I would say if you haven't heard, but I know that's not always true. That's not the way things work. But this embed widget right here, regardless, you can copy the clipboard and use that to embed in your learning management system. And obviously you can always grab the link, but that embed is great to know that is there as well. That makes it really easy for you to share in your learning management system if you're not using Google Classroom. Okay, so we've looked around a little bit. We've looked at supplementals on the page. We've added to playlist, download. So next I wanted to show an elementary example on media literacy. And this again might be a series you're already familiar with. It's 3 minutes, so I was going to watch the whole thing. But again, if we have issues, we'll just maybe watch a little bit of it. And I won't have you all answer this, but a great question that we could use to frame. Have you ever been frustrated while searching the internet? That would be a yes or no, but we could of course ask them to expand on that and tell us about a time when they searched for something, making sure it's school appropriate, what did you search, what happened. Has anyone used Rough Ruffman? Familiar with the Rough Ruffman series? We didn't talk about it, but that video, did we see how it utilized a lot of the principles we talked about? He used a conversational style speaking. He looked like our students. He talked like our students. Did a great job matching the modality principle. He just used audio and really great animation and graphics. So again, these two videos are a great example of good digital media. Okay, so this one is on searching.
Rough Ruffman, humble media genius. Searching and you. Nowadays, it's easier than ever to search for things. Whether you're doing homework or shopping or just looking for fun stuff, the internet can bring it right to you. if you know how to be a good detective and search like a pro. Oh, hey, just settling a friendly bet. Are dogs or cats better? Okay, let's see what we got here. Cats are better than dogs? No doubt about it! Sorry, Blossom, but cats cannot be better than dogs. I mean, what website is this anyway? Let's see, name at the top there says cat'sarethebest.com. Well, now that seems a tad suspicious. I'm going to look at the About section to see who made this website. Blossom? Well, no wonder this site is all cat this, cat that. No offense, of course. I mean, I get it. You're a cat. You should be into cat stuff and all that. Just saying, slightly skewed. Awkward. Oh, hi. We took a survey, and a lot of you said you use Google and Bing to search for information on the internet. Jet here will help me explain how a search engine works. Now, this is my closet. Inside, there's a lot of stuff. Kind of like on the internet. If I looked at everything in there at once, I could never find anything. But Chet goes in there all the time, and he knows where everything is. So Chet is kind of like a search engine. Okay, Chet, bring me a cone. I need the cones for this ice cream. It's a surprise for Chet. Shh. Chet, I meant an ice cream cone, not a traffic cone. What? Oh, I know, I wasn't specific enough. Sorry about that, buddy. Now, can you please go get the ice cream cones? Important lesson there. When searching, use extra words to make sure you get what you want. Now that's more like it. Great searching, Chet. With so much information out there, it's important to learn how to search like an internet detective. And my detective skills tell me it's time to dance. Chet, music, please.
Our freshman always ends with a dance party with all of his videos. So we can talk about if you have any ideas for follow-up questions, or does anyone have any general thoughts on this video? Pros, cons? If you're at the elementary level, could you see using this video with students? Again, you can see it's 3 minutes, so great for elementary. It applied all the principles that we talked about, and really great, kind of a funny way to introduce students to privacy issues, to searching. I'll add it to our playlist. I meant to have this pulled up, but I will go and do a search to show you. And again, this is linked for you, but you can see there's videos on privacy, on technology, on texting, on photos. We watch searching. So there's a lot of different videos in this series that could be on getting the most from the internet, privacy and you. So a really great series, especially for early learners who are new to the internet, or even older learners if we're trying to review some of what they've already learned. And again, this is linked for you, but here's the infographic I made with those. Okay, so with we certainly are not going to take the whole time. I think we could be out by 11:45. But with the last few minutes, I just wanted to show, we looked at 2 videos from eMediaVA, some different examples of some other content and resources we have. Sometimes when I do training, it's just 45 minutes on eMediaVA, but I really like talking. I'm really passionate about digital media, so I like talking about that. We do have a 20-minute quick start tutorial on our website, and of course, just know we love to do training. So I can come in online, in person, and talk. You know, we can just do social studies, or we can just do science, we can just do English, or you know, we can do trainings generally on digital media for your teachers if that's something you're interested in. Okay, so sorry, I did have to pull that up at one point. So again, this is linked in the slide deck already. You can see I've organized it by early childhood resources, elementary, secondary, and then some PD resources as well. As we talked about social emotional learning, we've done a lot of research and pulled together some resources here. So this first one is for teachers. So it's just going to be for teachers to learn more. These here are on the 5 core competencies of SEL, and these are going to be to use with students. As we talked about, these are aimed at early, elementary, and elementary students, and less so for the high school. But obviously, Sesame Street is great. Daniel Tiger, Meet the Helpers. So these have interactives, which are games, especially for young learners, videos and documents for introducing social emotional learning topics with your students. So I mentioned collections that can be easily posted. This is an example. We pull resources on a variety of topics and SOL strands that makes it really easy for teachers to use or to share with parents. Okay, starting with early childhood, this is a new resource that PBS has developed called Activity Starters. And there's one, although Arthur, this was the last year for Arthur, sadly. It can be really hard to know how to use PBS Kids resources in the classroom. They make really, really great series. So activity starters are a way for teachers to introduce them in really easy ways to their students. So again, it just has different activity starters and ideas. And again, so here's Clifford. Even here's one, but there's more here too with some different ideas. So if you have teachers who are really wanting to use PBS Kids in the classroom, that has some ideas for that. Alma's Way is a new, if you have any toddlers, Alma's Way is a new PBS show that we have in eMediaVA, and Molly of Denali, I love. We watch this with our son, but especially with, Native American History Month, and even towards the end of the year, does a really great job of showing Alaskan culture. It's the first show that features a Native American young girl for students. Really great series. Math Talk pre-K through second. So these are going to be used to introduce videos, and they are separate. You can see some are pre-K through K, and then some are grades 1 through 2. I'm not going to show any of these, but again, they're linked for you here. Elementary, so media literacy. I've pulled some of our favorite resources. A lot of the Rough Ruckman videos are going to be linked there. Celebrating Winter has some really great videos, and this is, I believe, K through 12. So a video on hibernating, nature at home. Videos and documents. So again, this could be a great collection to share with teachers at the end of the year if they're looking, for little do-nows and things like that to do every day for the winter. Dress for the Season is an example of some of the different, we just have so many interactives. And again, for young learners, interactives are usually games. So I'm not going to walk through all of this, but this is an interactive that looks at dressing for the season.
We're dressing up for the season. Help us decide what we need. Choose one of us and let's get started.
And then you go through, you pick a season. So that's an example of an interactive. There's a really great one from Sesame Street featuring Grover. And then for older students, is Santa real? A scientific analysis. Where do birds go in the winter? 5 physics experiments for the holidays. Holiday crafting in America, a circuit analysis video. So just some ideas. We have some really great series, again, that are great for the end of the year. If, again, teachers are wanting to kind of have some fun related to the holidays with their students. No Nonsense Grammar, Fine Arts Elementary. Let's Learn, I always like to point out for elementary. So this is a series done by the New York Department of Education and New York teachers, where it's teachers teaching from home. So this could just be a great series to share with elementary teachers if they, are in groups and looking for something additional for students to watch. Great for flipped classroom, having students why reinvent the wheel. But I also like to point this out because there's a lot of teachers telling stories. So again, if teachers are working in groups and need something for students to do, this could be a great thing for them to have in their back pocket of other teachers reading stories to students. Some of them are books that teachers have written, and some of them are just classic books. So that's linked here for you too, but there also are things related to content, like what are fractions? Let's read, rhyme, and explore letters. Oh, Noah is a new show. And then everyday learning are interactives for young learners. I love interactives. They are the definition of active learning because they're hands-on. Students are in control of the pacing. So I have linked those there for you as well if you work with elementary students. Okay, so for secondary, and again, just a few minutes, I want to give you some time to be first in the lunch line. There's Above the Noise. It's Okay to Be Smart is one of my favorite series that, again, can be used across disciplines just to get students talking. Why seasons make no sense. How many trees really are there? Why does the earth have layers? How did the elements get their name? Why do we even go to space? Why are the bees dying? How big is the solar system? Nova Labs for science educators. These are wonderful, created by Nova. And you can see they are on a variety of topics. So they feature videos related to a lab and then an interactive. So students could, they're short enough that students could conceivably watch all of them. It could also be a cool jigsaw activity where some students become experts on 1 to 2 videos they share. And then at the end, there is an interactive that, again, is just really modern and contemporary. These are new resources. Like I said, I was a social studies teacher, so I'm not going to pretend to understand this. But it's time to conduct your own investigations of the sun. There's 3 different topics here. Find our place in the current solar system, predict future solar storms, and develop your own research project. Statistically, we probably wouldn't want students to do that. They have their own projects they do, but we could maybe have them do 1 or 2 of these. And then I love here, you can see an introduction to the sun. There's an interactive Sun 101. So that could be great for students to do if they're just starting to learn about the sun or reviewing at the high school level. Let me just walk through and show you what this looks like. So again, students would enter numbers here. This would make more sense if we were teaching this subject, but you can see there are labs on the sun. There's one on evolution, cloud, cybersecurity, really, really great resources that have been really popular. The rest of these here, so at our station, we have instructional designers who create full SOL courses in 9th through 12th grade that cover the entire year. So not all of them end up in eMediaVA. Some school divisions pay for them. Our local school divisions get them completely free of charge. So if you are in a local division, again, your teachers have access to every video and resource that we've created. But a lot of them have ended up in eMediaVA, and that list is here. So we have World History 1, World History 2 is being added in right now. World Geography, Algebra 1, Geometry. So I can just pull up, show you, but they literally cover the entire year. So some of them are going to be traditional teaching where it's a teacher walking through the content. So a lot of people use these for, if students are learning completely online by themselves, but they can also be great for teachers to use again for if they want students to do them at home, do them in the classroom. But some of them are review quizzes as well. So just always great to go through. Our interactives are great, have won a lot of awards, and they're available free of charge for Virginia teachers. Last thing, Origin of Everything. Again, I just really like these for the end of the year to point out to teachers how we discovered germs, how did makeup ads go from style to science, why do we drink milk in school, why are patriotic songs all the same, why do students have so much debt, do we still need libraries? I printed that out at the FASL conference. And why does Santa wear red? So again, just a really fun series to get students talking. If we're talking about SEL, these are the kinds of resources for high school to get students talking and building that classroom community, which is really the most important thing at the secondary level. Okay, so that was pretty much what I wanted to share today. Thank you so much. Again, if you filled out that form in person and online, you should have gotten the bit.ly link to the form. I will make sure to send an email with all the resources we talked about today. And I will double check that everyone has accounts, or at least are in a school division that already uses Clever or single sign-on.
I have a question. You said that this was downloadable and that students could use this content.
Mhm.
Are there any restrictions around this in terms of copyright? So if I wanted to use a portion of it in our pre-recorded morning announcements, or sometimes we have kids that are doing mock documentaries, but and want to use footage that might take it out of its original context.
Sure.
What restrictions do we have?
Yes, so on each learning resource page at the bottom, you can see the SOLs are tagged here. And we actually have full citation information, but the permitted use is on each page. So with this one, you can view download, it cannot be modified, which means technically students wouldn't have permission to splice this up or use it. I actually had a call with a teacher from Norfolk that was interested in using something, and we're reaching out to the creator of the series to see if it's for educational use only just within the school, if they would grant permission. I mean, a lot of times they don't want this to be done for public or, commercial. So if it's something you really want to use, we're willing to do that. We can communicate with other PBS stations and see. Let me point this out to you also. On our homepage, which I know we didn't get into searching, but everything, we only serve Virginia teachers. So everything is tagged to the SOLs and is searchable by SOL here on the homepage. You can narrow down by type. Under other though, you can search by permitted use. So download and share, and modify. So if you or students, you only want resources that students can write all over, they can splice, you can do whatever they want, but they can search that way as well. So that makes it nice. If anyone was coming to, I know we wrote about the new eMediaVA, as things usually happen. We are relaunching the site in the spring. So it was supposed to be ready for fall, and that unfortunately didn't happen. So we'll be doing a lot of training in the spring, but I did want to show, it's going to have a brand new search engine. We'll make it much easier to find resources. It'll have a more modern look. So really pushing our curated collections. We recently launched a blog. This is the first year we have eMediaVA ambassadors. So we work with master teachers from around the state who are writing blogs, doing trainings with us. So this features their expertise on using eMediaVA. Featured resources. So every week, this will have something for social studies, for English, for fine arts, all of the different resources, and it will change, and then teachers can always see what's new and what's most popular. So I'm very excited about the new look and the new features. And again, I apologize if that's primarily why you were here, but again, that is launching in the spring, and we'll be doing a lot of training about that. And of course, at VISTE next year, we'll do that and talk more about that. But thank you so much for coming. If you wanted to check on if your school has a Canvas integration, I'm happy to actually pull that up.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're supposed to have that. Like, all the other, like, you see that.
For eMediaVA or for,
Yeah.
do you guys use Canvas or Clever? Okay.
But she said it's not through Clever.
Sit right
So
there.
at a certain point, you
I figured you might be looking for it.
I can create an account for you, but if you're logging, and that's usually
But she
easy
said we're not.
because you can have division access. But obviously we can make changes to
That's fine.
Clever accounts. So
Yeah, she said it wasn't through Clever.
if you, so you don't have to wait around. If you just want to give me your email, and I'll make you a division lead so you can go see all the schools and just put Manassas Park City.
I have a question from online.
Okay.
Stephen is asking, is there a way that things can be sorted by SEL? Oh, we already asked that, but is there a sort of categorization?
Yes, the CTE SOL is listed, so you can search by CTE SOLs, or of course the keyword.
I'm not very.
I'm sorry.
And this is something we can request. It might be that not all divisions know about it. Some divisions just